Hi there, Cosmic Family. My name is Elial. I am here to talk about the energies, the astrological energies for the next week, from May 25th until May 31st. So we are going to have the full moon in Sagittarius, which is May 31st and is going to be active since from this moment. I'm going to talk about the first of the aspects that are going to be presented along the way towards the lunation, but these energies are part of the configuration of that event, and in the end I'm going to add other information. So we begin with an aspect that actually has been active since the last week with Mercury in Gemini. I'm talking about the squares between the Sun in Gemini and the lunar nodes, North Node in Pisces and South Node in Virgo. And here I wanted to remind you something that I mentioned also, that and it is that Uranus in Gemini is creating the same squares, but in a long-term aspect. This is going until the end of July practically, and well, these days we feel this a lot because the Sun is in conjunction, making an activation, is in conjunction with Uranus in a union. So this responds to choices that could bring a lot of growth, that could be very positive regarding realities that we want to create, but at the same time could be very uncomfortable. And the degree of resistance that we are going to have depends on how we are attaching ourselves to parts of our identity, because Sun in Gemini, in here there is a way of thinking, a mental structure, a form of communicating, a form of behaving that has to be different to open up to new cycles, to new and evolutionary cycles. And this involves to face decisions and inner truths. This is the full moon in Sagittarius that cannot be denied anymore, because denial it is only going to produce inner conflict, external conflict, or the sensation that we are not able to move. And this is something that I also mentioned the last week. North Node in Pisces is to open up to paths or callings in which we cannot have everything planned or resolved in the rational level, because we truly want to do that to control the development of the events that are happening. That is the South Node in Virgo, the point of cleansing. So this is more about surrendering to life, to the experiences as they are coming. And this North Node also involves listening to our hearts and doing the most loving thing towards oneself and towards the environment. This means that keep renouncing to the inner callings, or doing things for other people that are felt as forced and that are draining us energetically, and not only are harming us, that also doesn't contribute with the environment. We keep feeding the imbalance in those dynamics in our lives and in the lives of those people. So this is more understanding the act of love as the decision that possesses the most elevated intention, even if that is uncomfortable, even if generates guilt, even if we feel that we are putting distance with certain people, or that we can lose their validation. Because when we keep operating in this old conception that being a good person is to do or to be for others in self-abandonment, that is truly another way of selfishness. And deep down, we could do that because we are seeking for certain benefits. I mean, creating emotional dependencies in other people to feel loved, depositing energy in other people to avoid feeling what is happening inside, or to focus in other important decisions that we don't want to face because they produce fear and uncertainty, for example. So the South Node in Virgo could also be seen as creating these mental excuses, such as, this is not the ideal moment to begin that project, I don't have enough, when truly, opening up to our own growth is what is going to impulse finding our service towards other people. And that is the thing that could help the most to others. So each one of us is going to be in a different phase of their path. So we have to respect our own processes. I am referring that, there could be people that have this anxiety to find their own service, their purpose, but they are not resolving things in their relationships and in their environments. That precisely is what actually is going to allow them to discover themselves and reveal who they truly are behind the programmings they have been exercised along their lives. So there are other people that already have directions or paths that, they can focusing, but as a mechanism of protection in the face of the unknown. The distractions could be produced. This is the shadow of the energy of a Gemini, focusing into thousand things, or thoughts, many thoughts without purpose. So we avoid to make a decision. So here, Uranus in Gemini means that life is going to produce the necessary chaos, disruptive situations, so we can, move forward towards this different order. And yeah, this could bring certain destabilization initially, but it is also an energy that awakens us, that reconnects us with creativity, with life, with curiosity, with the will of learning. So the next aspect is something that I also mentioned the last week because it was there when it was activated. I am talking about May 26th, the square between Mars in Taurus and Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. So as Pluto is retrograde, people could be feeling like pushed to reevaluate situations that they have been transiting regarding groups of people, networks, ways in which they are expressing or not their authenticity, ways of doing or expressing it, if they are being honest with themselves, and forms of freedom that could be enabled through transformations. This means death of internal aspects or situations in our reality. And with Mars in Taurus, this is very implied with economical topics, it's the self-value that we can give or what we consider valuable. And if there are symptoms in the physical body, which is something that is also very related to Taurus, or imbalances in our economy, that is going to be the manifestation of something that perhaps require detachment, change, another decisions, etc. So what also happens with this kind of tensions is that on one side, some people could be very in this survival mode, because perhaps they have to do movements regarding economical matters or something that they associate with stability to experiment a greater freedom. But those changes could generate a lot of fear, the fear of losing something or wanting to control what comes towards the future. Or, in other situations, the material, sexual, emotional attachments, obsessions towards people or situations that are not actually contributing could emerge. So looking at those things is not pleasant to do it, but it's necessary to be aware of what we truly have to transform. For other people, this could be manifested more like wanting to free themselves from something, but right now, in the shadow, the attachment could be more linked with the the perception that I don't have the power to change this thing in my life, and the resistance to make the process that can actually enable new positive experiences, but not always everything is, coming from a quick decision. So it is also an aspect that puts in evidence dynamics of abuses of power, whether because we are allowing other people to manipulate us, taking more energy than they should, or because we are doing that. So Pluto retrograde, these situations are not new, so there is something in here that we could do differently to close a cycle. The good thing is that same day, and we feel it the whole week, Sun in Gemini creates a trine with Pluto in Aquarius, and this is a very fluid aspect. It gives air. It helps us to consider different possibilities, to see situations with different perspectives, and to not close ourselves in experiences or behaviors that are retiring our freedom. So we can take our power focusing in what right now could produce these positive changes. I mean, many times we cannot modify something directly, in a situation. But for example, if we change a dynamic in a relationship that is not making us feel good, there is this possibility that the relationship isn't going to work. But in other cases, perhaps the other person also chooses to take a look internally and do something different. The thing is to not do things to force someone else to change, because that is manipulation, and the most probable thing is that is going to derive in conflict and frustration, which also are aspects of Mars. This is more about doing, moving to create stability in ourselves. Perhaps it is about to stop reacting on the manipulations of others, or stopping exercising them, so because we want other people to act as we want. Other different example could be with the economical situation. There could be difficulties in that area, and not always that depends on a specific and quick decision that is going to solve everything. At times it is, but in other cases, I see this a lot. This is connected with relationships that are draining us and that are not representing that we are giving value to ourselves, or decisions of cultivating projects that require their process so we can see the fruits. And this last thing is very connected with the next aspect that it continues to be active until the end of the week, and also obviously participates of the full moon. I am talking about May 29th, Venus in Cancer in a square with Saturn in Aries. So these tensions with Saturn present challenges of maturity, patience, and responsibility that are going to be shown in different levels and forms according to how we have integrated these Saturnian qualities, the houses of your map where you have Cancer and Aries, and if there are planets there, close of the 12th degree of both of them. And when we talk about Venus, resources and relationships are very involved. This could have many expressions, could be linked with establishing boundaries in a situation that is very known for us but cannot continue that way, or in which we are staying because of emotional attachments that are preventing us from developing a level of inner structure and independence that are vital to move forward. Could be that restrictions or lessons of maturity are coming from the outside, precisely because we didn't we weren't registering those necessary boundaries. In other cases, obstacles or delays are presenting that are showing us that we need to make a decision with responsibility, thinking in the long term, or just simply cultivate patience and sustain something in time with consistency, even if not always things are flowing as we want. It could be an aspect that at times could make us feel it is not the aspect, but it could put in evidence certain processes of frustration with the things that are happening or with other people. But what is being reflected on the outside is what we need to grow inside and develop maturity in our behaviors. Finally, May 31st, full moon in Sagittarius. This is given in the degree 9 with 55 minutes, almost degree 10. So everything that I'm commenting until this point configurates its energy. This is a closure of a cycle. Sagittarius is a sign associated with great inner truths, or truths that are coming from the outside. Horizons, visions that have purpose, expansion, and growth. So the ruler is Jupiter, and at this moment, by this moment, it is going to be in the degree 23 of Cancer. It is in the end of the transit because, in short, it's going to change to Leo. Therefore, it is very important to understand that the expansion that we are seeking shouldn't be seen only as beneficial in its shell. I mean, I am choosing this career only because of the money that this could give. I am choosing this relationship because it allows me to run away from an emotional lack, but in the end, I am not resolving what leads to feel that way from the roots. So with Jupiter in Cancer, we have this possibility of creating plenitude that involves all the levels of the experience, internal, emotional, physical one. But this initiates by listening to our intuition and being capable of letting go of spaces or dynamics that are known, that perhaps we used to deal with reality, many of them from our childish needs that are not covered, but in the end they are preventing us from growing. They are limiting us. And beyond this, the sun is in a separative conjunction with Uranus in Gemini. This means that this happened on May 22nd, but it is still there, and therefore the moon in Sagittarius is creating an opposition with Uranus. This means that there is information that already emerged, revelations, situations also could emerge this week that is indicating where we need to do the changes. Some of these truths could break completely with perceptions that we had. They could be very uncomfortable. Conversations that we didn't expect, or having to say or deciding something that we know that is going to change the course of the path. But Mercury in Gemini is in a sextile with Chiron in Aries, so this is an aspect of support and of opportunity to take decisions or communicate something transcending conditionings of painful past experiences. I mean, I'm going to do this, even though I feel this insecurity. I am going to express this thing to this person, even if this, causes a fear. I'm going to take this direction that my soul wants to take. Even though some people perhaps are not going to approve my initiative. So, other principal aspect is that the sun is in a sextile and the moon in Sagittarius in a trine with Saturn in Aries. So at the same time that Venus creates attention with Saturn, we have those super fluid aspects. And this means that if we are really assuming what we need to assume with responsibility, there is a very solid and positive construction that is being created, or people that have been doing a sustained labor, or they are have been taking coherent decisions with themselves, could see the fruits of those constructions, or it is a moment where a new opportunity of growth is presented. But precisely, Venus in Cancer, this means that we have to leave something behind, something familiar behind. It could be an space, a dynamic, or an inner aspect. And, as the last comment, we have this minor grand trine, this aspect that I've been talking a lot at the last year, 2025, and in many, many videos, because this involved the great transpersonals, Neptune in Aries, Uranus in Gemini, and Pluto retrograde in Aquarius, all of them connected. And all the manifestations, both in the collective and in the individual level, they are operating among this higher plan that exceeds our individual will. But Sagittarius, we could trust that this is what is required right now to expand ourselves, even if we don't understand every time the sense, in its whole. It is going to be revealed when it is necessary, if it's necessary. So the things that are happening also, in the context of this full moon, is to reconnect with enthusiasm, with life, to connect with the plenitude in this moment, from choosing to invest our energy in what we truly feel with purpose. Because if we otherwise, we are always chasing this happiness that is in a situation out of our reach. And on the other side, one thing is to over-focus in the future, but the other thing is not seeing any possibility in what is coming. That is going to emerge from unconscious patterns that are making us seeing the path with a perception that is very negative, which is the opposite of the energy of Sagittarius. And of course, there are moments that we could feel that way, but the thing is to come back to ourselves and to listen to what our soul is indicating, because our soul is showing us our most elevated purposes, from the decisions on the present moment, and how to cultivate this inner plenitude. And as the last thing, this is about not confusing the optimism that is being born from the seek of our growth with the optimism that actually denies circumstances that aren't working anymore and that are making us stay where we shouldn't. So I'm going to close the video here. Thank you, everyone. See you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.